Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the number one source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter. Hello and welcome, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter, and welcome to Goldilocks Global Banking News. Folks, you must understand and know that gold, in the new banking system, all of the banks that govern the currencies that we hold, the central banks, that is, and all of the banks have gold in their systems in preparation for any potential financial crisis that occurs in this new digital banking system. This is all as a result of Basel III, what happened in 2008 with the financial crisis. Vietnam is making even more moves, historical moves, as it pertains to gold, because they are lining themselves up for the Vietnamese dong to revalue. Let's jump right into what Goldilocks is sharing today about Vietnam and gold. And this is a quote directly from Bloomberg news outlet. Vietnam frees its gold market up after a 13-year monopoly, end quote. Meaning, folks, Vietnam has controlled and manipulated the value of gold within Vietnam, just like they did with the Vietnamese dong. They had a complete lock, and I say this specifically within Vietnam, not the gold markets outside of Vietnam, but in. And all of this, what Goldilocks is sharing, folks, is what is organically showing how Vietnam is preparing for the revaluation of the Vietnamese dong. How the reform could help stabilize the dong is what Goldilocks is sharing. This reform is meaning that Vietnam is freeing up their gold market. What will back the Vietnamese dong? Gold. What will back the dinar? Gold. But specifically, we're touching on Vietnam today. Liberalizing the gold market is likely to help liberate the Vietnamese dong by addressing root causes of its weakness, though effects will be gradual and depend on execution. What Goldilocks is stating is that as Vietnam frees their gold, the gradual appreciation of the Vietnamese dong and its value will commence. Gradual. This is why it is called afloat. So here's the reasoning Goldilocks is stating behind how gold is likely to free the dong. Reduced gold prices and premiums create demand. Prices dipped in Vietnam for gold in early October. But however, the reform tackles gold and gold's role as a dong substitute, fostering trust in the dong. So what's happening is investors are trusting the Vietnamese dong more now than ever before because the government of Vietnam is freeing up gold so that gold can back the dong. You see the safe haven? You see the security behind the dong? You see the protection behind the dong? So that when these investors and these major wealth managers and these firms, wealth management firms that have trillions of dollars that will invest in Vietnam in the dong, they know that gold in Vietnam is being freed to support the Vietnamese dong. Freeing Vietnam's gold market can help the dong rise in value by narrowing the price gap between domestic gold and international gold, which will increase the supply of gold, thus increasing the demand of the Vietnamese dong. And what raises the value of a currency? Supply and demand. See, a more stable and regulated gold market reduces the need for people to hoard gold, to put it in their under their bunkers and underneath the ground in the back of their yards. No need to do that anymore, Vietnam. The Vietnamese government announced the gold market reforms in late September last month, which include state-held gold bars that they auctioned to increase the supply, loosening the state's monopoly on the gold, allowing more market-driven trading of gold so that they can reduce smuggling of gold. You might ask, well, what does this have to do with the revaluation of the Vietnamese dong? Everything. Because what's going to back the dong? Gold. See, what's happening, folks, is we are witnessing the organic, natural creation of a flow, a current to back the Vietnamese dong. What's the original current, which is the original currency? Gold. Gold. See, many of you, oftentimes you get turned off when you hear gold because you haven't been educated to understand how it is necessary for the RV. Many of you have only heard dinar, dong, boulevard, zim zim. You heard all these things. But what's going to back the actual currencies? Gold. What is necessary? Gold. How can you have a revaluation of currencies if there's no support behind those currencies such as gold? So when you see Vietnam freeing up their gold, they're not doing this. Why do you think they're doing it now and it hasn't been done in the history of Vietnam? See, in the new banking system, all banks, especially your central banks, they all have gold in their reserves. These changes, folks, stabilize the Vietnamese dong. The capital flows and the currency volatility strengthens the Vietnamese dong and its value because of gold reserves. These reforms behind gold will allow gold to function as a traditional store of value rather than primary store of wealth and hedging tool against a weak currency. Vietnam's gold traders, they've endorsed these reforms. Gold's role as a medium of exchange and store of value can influence the Vietnamese dong indirectly. But it doesn't directly cause the dong to grow in value. It's the indirect value of gold and support of gold that stands behind the Vietnamese dong. Gold, its role as a medium of exchange, Goldilocks is sharing, is the main core principle behind the dong that will allow it to revalue. And the shutdown, Goldilocks is stating that the U.S. is witnessing, is connected to this. Due to the economic instability from the U.S. government shutdown and trade tariffs, Vietnamese investors are increasingly favoring gold, meaning they're investing more in gold. That's right. Because of the government shutdown in the U.S., international investors now are investing more in gold over the U.S. dollar. A long-standing cultural preference for gold and recent government changes to liberalize the gold market are amplifying this recent trend. Gold factors that Goldilocks is sharing. Gold's status in Vietnam is rising. What, of course, is going to back the Vietnamese dong for the RV? Gold. There are global factors that's connected to this. The U.S. government shutdown has triggered China to invest more in gold. Who is one of Vietnam's major trade partners? China. What will China settle their transactions with Vietnam in trade? The dong. What's going to back it? Gold. This is why we continuously tell you that everything is connected to everything. What Goldilocks is sharing is that the U.S. dollar's appeal and its strength is declining. The dong has been weakening against the U.S. dollar in 2025, driven by the government's infrastructure spending and the global impact of U.S. trade policies. But it's all in preparation for the strengthening of gold, which organically strengthens the value of the Vietnamese dong. Vietnam's export-driven economy is vulnerable to external shocks, but gold gives it strength. The liberalization of Vietnam's gold aims to stabilize the dong like never before and increases their transparency. By the government of Vietnam ending its monopoly on gold, it will increase the supply of gold and increase the demand in the dong. These reforms are intended to move gold away from being a primary safe haven and back to its role as a store of value. Vietnam's gold reforms are expected to help close the gap and increase the price pressure on the dong to raise in value. By allowing licensed companies and banks to import raw gold into Vietnam, these reforms aim to bring idle, hoarded gold into circulation, which eases the pressure on the dong and makes the dong more stable and its new value more stable. The influx of gold Goldilocks is sharing is anticipated to lead to more stable pricing, bringing the price of gold within Vietnam in alignment with international rates and international standards. And when that happens, the currency that it backs and supports, it will do the same. That being the Vietnamese dong. What we're witnessing, and I had this conversation with Goldilocks this morning, what we are witnessing is the organic strength and stability that is building to support the revaluation of the Vietnamese dong and other currencies around the world. As Goldilocks always says, watch the water. Folks, you must stay grounded and stay focused. I know there's a lot of distractions out there, a lot of tension, anxiety, anticipation, false information that is creating a lot of anxiety. For those of you who follow Goldilocks, you know what you hold and you know what you need to do. Continue on your journey. As you can see, especially for those of you who have your relationships, you know what you hold and you know what's coming. Be well.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the #1 source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter.